L minus 3 hours, 17 minutes.
LC Slick on channel 1.
Go ahead.
Crew transport convoy is en route to LC-41. Estimated arrival to the roadblock is about L minus, I would say 3:05.
Roger. OSM, LC.
OSM.
Crew transport convoy is en route to pad. Permit entry into FHA.
Roger. LCOSM.
Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Per step 150, 26 personnel 26 entering FHA at this time.
Roger.
LC, Slick on Channel 1.
Go ahead.
Ready for pad support personnel to perform OSE radio comm checks and proceed to ground level.
Roger.
And LC, this is Slick. They're exiting the white room to grab the radio now.
Okay. Roger. Copy that.
The flight crew convoy has arrived at the pad gate.
Roger.
LCOSM.
Go ahead.
Crew transport vehicle has entered the pad.
Roger. Crew is clear to proceed to level 12.
Roger.
L minus 3 hours.
The crew transport vehicle has arrived at the base of the CAD.
Roger.
LC locks 2.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Roger. Is there any expected venting up in that area?
Roger, LC, we're starting to see the oscillations at the top of the OLED space dampen out little by little. We're going to observe it for a little bit longer here, but at this time we don't see any issues with the tank health this time.
Roger. Suspecting maybe just a different sound coming out of the Centaur vent valve.
That's affirmative, LC.
Roger. Blue team lead, LC.
Go ahead, sir.
Roger. Appreciate the comment. Just advised if anything significant changes.
Yes, sir.
The flight crew have arrived on CAT level 12.
Roger.
See Suni's hair getting blown around, but it's a great view looking down. I'm sure that sunset over the Cape is pretty special at this point.
Yeah, it's wonderful that this isn't a night launch, because obviously at night this place is pitch dark. So it's nice to have a view from up there for them.
And you can see off to the left there, that is the crew access arm that's headed out to the White Room. So once they're complete with their restroom breaks, then they will head down the crew access arm.
Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Crew transport vehicle is clearing the pad.
Roger.
And here they go. Butch and Suni walking across the crew access arm to Starliner, their ride to space. So
and
now,
OSM, proceed to south fallback. Roger.
So now they're in the White Room being greeted by some of the pad team members. That's going to help them ingress into the Starliner capsule. But before they do that, you can see Butch has a Sharpie in his hand, and he is actually signing a mission patch that they have put in the White Room.
It may seem like we do a lot of signing and a lot of patches, but it's important, the traditions, and not only for the crew, but for all the team that supports. So you can see all the Boeing folks there in the White Room, and Suni and Butch have worked with these folks for many, many years, and they are going to do all the final checks and get them in the spacecraft. Really, Suni and Butch put their lives and making sure that they're ready to go in their hands. So you can see them gathering there for some final some words prior to getting in the spacecraft.
I love seeing this moment. Again, another opportunity for them to get together, possibly a prayer. We know that Butch is a man of faith.
As discussed in the room here, we're almost at the end of our 5-minute timer for restarting flow with the oscillations. Recommendation from IFS is to resume flow and then immediately initiate a rechill process once we have regained our topic state.
Roger. I concur. Proceed.
You can see it looks like the Butch there is taking the patches from the crew that are helping them get suited up there in the white room, and he'll fly those patches to space and then return them to the crew members when he returns safely.
And simultaneously also happening, you'll see the pad team members with different bags, and that's basically them making sure that Butch and Suni have everything they need before they get into the Starliner spacecraft.
Yes, you can't check too much, so you will double and triple check, and you'll have your buddy check you out as well. You want to make sure that you have everything situated just perfectly. You can see Butch there, he's hooking up the comm cord from his chippa to his spacesuit.
And what we'll see is Butch going through the ingress process first, and then Suni will observe from the outside here, and then it'll be her turn to go inside.
Yes, and there's a lot. You can see that the Boeing folks have suits on, have hairnets on, have gloves on, have masks on. The white room is a clean room. It's environmentally controlled. We want to make sure that the environment inside the spacecraft has the proper humidity, that there's no contamination, and we are, it's very important that there's no dust, hairs, rocks, anything, any type of FOD that could get into the spacecraft or into the hatch. So it's important that we keep this room clean and pristine.
Right, so after they help him get his gear situated here, as you said, some FOD checks, foreign object debris, things that shouldn't be on them, go into space with them, so make sure they take them off. So you see that white pad on the floor there, Nicole, that's like a tacky mat is what they call it.
Yeah, the little sticky mat, and so if there's any debris on your shoes or your boots as you go in, that will get removed and stay on the sticky mat. You can see that they're helping Butch put on his wrist. He's got a wrist mirror as well as a wrist light that they helped put on. He also has a watch, and he has a cover that's on his watch. You can see that wrist mirror there on his right forearm.
And what do they need a light and a mirror on their forehead? Why do they need those things?
Well, really that mirror, remember we saw how during that leak check how Butch lowered his helmet and then zipped his helmet all the way around. So you can't by yourself see confirm that helmet is fully zipped unless you have a mirror or your buddy can look at it and see it for you. So it's really for safety of flight, and if you needed to, of course when you're strapped in, you may have limited visibility. Of course, if you're pressurized or something, that's even exacerbated. So that mirror allows you to gain more views of the spacecraft and to check that your helmet is properly zipped prior to pressurizing.
And now we are inside the Starliner spacecraft. And as Butch gets settled into his seat, let's toss it over to Lauren and Dylan inside with the launch team to walk us through what else will happen before Suni gets in.
Go ahead.
This time, flow has been reinitiated and a rechill has been issued.
Roger.
Megan, thank you. We are taking a new view now. This is
Blue
from
Team Lead, LC.
This is from one of the 4 different views we have inside Starliner from our Mustang camera system. And this shot here, of course, is up close on our commander, Butch Wilmore, as he gets settled into the seat here. This is the commander's seat, so he, you saw him there sort of crawl across some of the other seats to slide all the way over. Part of the reason why he goes in first is because he is the farthest to crawl across there. So 2 different pad team members helping to get him settled in. He will sort of do a little bit of a shimmy to get perfectly into the seat and comfortable as they start to strap him up. And you can see them working across his belt there, as well as some of the straps on his legs. We're also seeing Suni walk down back toward the white room now.
LCOSM.
Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Per step 160.24. Personnel have exited FHA roadblock.
Roger.
All right, and back inside Starliner. Again, we have these two pad team members who are helping Butch get settled in here. They won't start with Suni until Butch gets completely in. These seats that they're in, actually, Butch and Suni made some recommendations when they started the process of getting fitted into them. They wanted to add a little bit of extra padding to their backs. So that's just one of the ways that they've been involved in making changes along the way. And they say that, every little change that they make, they want their friends, the other astronauts who will fly Starliner in the future, to look back and thank them for making, this the most comfortable and pleasant ride to space for them. Now, right in front of Butch there is the Starliner console. It is a display with a mix of screens and switches and knobs. It also has two hand controllers, so he'll have one down to his right as well as a one on his left. And that console has really been simplified from
Blue team lead LC on one.
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, Roger, just for your essay, we are executing another center locks retail.
Yes, sir. We did notice that. I apologize for being off net briefly. I had to do a crew assist. The audible that I had reported earlier concerning the chattering sound is greatly diminished, but it is still present.
Roger.
As I was saying, the console there has really been simplified for maximum efficiency from some of the previous spacecraft that they've both been on. The shuttle had thousands of switches and indicators, but Starliner has about 85. And Butch and Suni have told us that they really like to be able to get their hands on those switches and the hand controllers. Of course, they're both test pilots at heart, and aviation is in their blood, and so they like to be able to get their hands on it. They will be doing some manual flying about 1 hour after they are in a safe orbit, so about an hour and a half after launch. Not too far from now, they will be grabbing those hand controllers and flying Starliner. Of course, it was built to be completely autonomous, and future missions we don't expect them to ever need to take their hands onto the console, but this is a test flight, and so we are going to test out all of the capabilities of Starliner. The other seats that are in Starliner today, the third and fourth seat, are filled with cargo. The fifth seat has a flat plate on it. So Suni will sit right next to Butch. And we saw them give us a little demonstration in a press conference recently. They sat down next to each other to kind of show us how they sit in this spacecraft, and they said it was quite roomy. They had elbow room and they could move around. They gave us another example of what they've been like in previous flights where they've been a little bit tighter, so they were happy to have the extra space here. This process takes about 15 to 20 minutes to get Butch completely ingressed. But Dylan, our teams have really been working for the last few days leading up to this launch. It didn't just start in the last few hours, right?
Yeah, that's right, Lauren. So we actually rolled the rocket out to the launch pad on Saturday. And once the rocket was rolled out, we made those connections, like I said before, to all the pad utilities. So the propellant storage farms, pad power systems, the environmental control systems. And once all that was done, then we loaded the RP-1 rocket fuel onto the Atlas first stage. RP-1 is not cryogenic on Atlas V, so we were able to load that early prior to launch day. So we did that on Saturday afternoon, and with all that work complete, we wrapped up our activities on Saturday in preparation for our launch opportunity today. So this morning we came in at 11:15, powered up the launch vehicle, started doing all of our avionics checks and all those final configurations and double checking the configuration of the pad. With all that complete, we went ahead and loaded all the cryogenic propellants on board Atlas and Centaur.
And we are seeing Suni make a phone call right now. I think we might be able to actually see who's on the other end of that call.
LCSY on one.
Go ahead, SYS.
Step 170, L1 balloon cycle task is complete.
Roger.
So there on the left side of the screen, we are taking a look into the BMCC. And there's a bit of a surprise happening right now. Suni is making her phone call to a man named Bill Barr. He is a Boeing employee working there in the Boeing Mission Control Center, and he is the responsible engineer for the egress system, which stands for Environmental Control and Life Support System. Now, obviously, that's a very important system for flights with human on board. Just trying to see if we could see any of the reaction in the room, but I'm sure this is quite the honor and surprise for Bill. Bill is a lifetime career Boeing employee. He started with one of Boeing's heritage companies, McDonnell Douglas, in the Skylab program. His teammates told us he is one of the greatest mentors anyone could ask for. Just a great teacher, knowledgeable, kind, and incredibly patient. Couldn't hear anything better from your teammates.
Better than one is on listen to.
And we're going to start hearing some comm checks here as Butch gets connected.
And LOX 2, Elsie.
Go ahead, Elsie.
Roger, do you have a status update?
At this point, we're back into stable topping replenish. Still monitoring our delta P measurements in the tank, but things are looking more favorable. We'll inform you if we start seeing oscillations again.
Roger.
Houston, CDR, Starliner, from Starliner, cop check on Interground 1.
Starliner, it's Houston, loud and clear, Interground 1 for the CDR.
All right, good comms check there. Those comms are connected through the umbilical on his torso.
And
We
Houston,
mentioned that when
Starliner,
they
we're
were
ready
in the
to
suit up.
power suit and Bravo.
Starliner, Houston, Interground 1, we copy, ready for Bravo on the egress control power panel. You can take suit fan Bravo.on.
Suit fan Bravo's coming on.
All right, so you just heard that call there. They are turning the suit fan on. And it looks like they're actually a little bit ahead of schedule here. This is something we were expecting to happen in about 7 minutes. So running pretty efficient today, and they will be, doing their best to see how quickly they can get this done, because of course we'll have 4 or more astronauts on future missions. When they have the suit fan on, that system routes air from the cabin back into the suit. So that's what they're testing out right now. You can see Butch has some paper procedures in his lap. He will use paper procedures until they get up into orbit. And then once they get up there, they will have tablets they pull out with the rest of their procedures. They also have procedures strategically placed in a few other positions. They have a knee board with procedures, as well as they have a pretty cool arm strap that sort of looks like what a quarterback for a pro football team would wear, if you've ever seen that. It has a laminated flap on it, and they can put procedures in there so they can just look down at their arm.
So, Lauren, I believe Butch did play football, right?
He did. Yeah, college football player. So he may be used to seeing those.
Yeah.
There's not much Butch can't do. I'll tell you that. The spacecraft is about 15 feet across inside, so quite spacious. I like to compare it to about a mid-size SUV. one of the tests that will be happening once they get up to the space station is called the Safe Haven test, and it's one of our flight test objectives. And they will actually pull in a couple of the astronauts who are already on the space station into Starliner with them and go through some procedures to be able to prove that Starliner could actually provide them sort of a lifeboat if they ever needed it, if there was a problem on the ISS. So we'll get a chance to see probably about 4 astronauts in there during that time. These seats that they're in are built to accommodate a range of heights as small as 4'11" all the way up to 6'4". So if you had any preconceived notions about what size you have to be an astronaut, not in this case. We will be able to fit all sizes. Suni talks a lot about that too in the suit fits that they've done, that they've been able to, the suit checks that they've done, they've been able to make sure that they can accommodate all sizes.
Houston Starliner, we are ready to perform synchronous leak check.
Starliner Houston, we copy, ready for suit gross leak check. CDR, we're ready.
All right, so that call there for the suit gross leak check, that is to check for any leaks in Butch's spacesuit. Now, the word gross is used in this situation to mean any significant or easily detectable leak that could compromise the integrity of the suit. It sounds a little funny, but it is a word that we're very used to in spaceflight. They'll be able to tell pretty quickly if there was a leak in the spacesuit. Once they inflate it, those pad team members will push on their arms and make sure that there's no air coming out. These suits are about 40% lighter than suits they've worn in the past. And Dylan, I've even tried on their gloves, and you would be amazed at how much you could move around in them, what all you can do in them. Of course, the fingertips you can use the tablets with, but I was really surprised at just how flexible they were. It's starting to get darker over Space Launch
Successful
Complex
synchronous
41.
leak check on CDR.
Houston copies a good gross suit leak check on the CDR. Thanks.
Good gross leak check. Good news there. You know, Butch is a former flight test instructor at Edwards Air Force Base. He has a Master of Science in Aviation Systems. So let's listen to a little bit more on this retired U.S. Navy captain and CFT commander, Butch Wilmore.
A large part of the desire within us is to do things that are of benefit to others. In this job, we get to do things that are of benefit truly for all mankind as we explore the heavens that not many people get to experience, true, but we don't go just to get the experience. It's about the team and it's about the benefit that it brings. My name is Butch Wilmore, and I am the commander for NASA's Boeing Crew Flight Test Mission to the International Space Station. Life in Tennessee, God's country, that's where I grew up. I'm very fortunate, had loving parents, took us to church. When I was young, 7 years old, I believe, they bought a little land out in the country, 6 acres or so. We had horses and cows, and I raised chickens and ducks, and just enjoyed life in the country. I went to Tennessee Tech, started working on an electrical engineering degree, and played football, which was a very difficult combination, I learned, because they're both full-time jobs. So it was a lot of effort over those years, but it molded me and it helped instill the work ethic my parents had instilled in me when I was younger. I entered the Navy and was fortunate to fly the A-7E. It was a single-seat attack aircraft, and I flew that for a couple of deployments. And then I transitioned to the F-18 Hornet, and through that process, was selected in the test pilot program. You learn a lot about yourself as you go through test pilot school, where you're lacking in certain capabilities that are necessary to do a test pilot type of job. When it comes to flight test, the minute details matter. When we're doing our runs, hey, well, let's run it this way. Let's do it that way. Let's add this in. Let's take that out. And let's look at it in that regime so we can see how the spacecraft responds. And that's what you do with aircraft, that's what you do with spacecraft, and that's what this test is all about. This crew flight test is a series of these various tests to ensure that the operational requirements and the design meets those requirements. And I think everybody that does flight tests would agree. Focus, understanding, and also the team coming together to give you the overall understanding of the test and the capabilities of the spacecraft or aircraft that you're testing is vital. Sitting in this seat over here in the Starliner sim and doing the things we've done and learning about the spacecraft, developing a lot of the capabilities of the spacecraft, it's very humbling when you see and you interact with some of these professionals, and our human spaceflight and our nation has a debt of gratitude to them. Every single training evolution we have is brand new. We're the first to do it. Whether it is checking the survival equipment in the pool with a mock-up of the spacecraft and how you egress, get out of the spacecraft, whether it's the side hatch or the upper hatch, while the seas are rough and all those type of things. There's a thought of how things should be, but then there's the reality of how things need to be. And that's what this test is all. Everything we do is test. It's been a process over years that is such a benefit in all aspects of the capabilities of this spacecraft. And we're excited to be a part of it.
We are excited to be a part of it as well. As they are starting to finish up with Butch, one of the things that was really important to him was to take the name tags of every single one of the pad team members up to space with them. Now, this is a tradition that dates back to shuttle, but typically they would take just 2 name tags, the 2 folks that are working with them there in the spacecraft, but something he really wanted to do was take the name tags of all of them. So pretty special honor for those folks in the pad team. Now, Dylan, what's been going on with ULA as we've been focused here on the crew? There's a lot going on in the background.
Well, Lauren, that's right. So there's a couple of things going on down in the control room. As there has been some conversation on the net that folks would have heard, the propulsion team is actually active, kind of maintaining the propellant levels in the cryogenic propellant tanks, and that'll continue right up until we enter the terminal count. Our avionics testing is all complete for the day, so it's relatively quiet on avionics row at the moment. The launch conductor and his team are going to be listening very closely to all the activities on the pad, and we've heard some of that communication between LC and the Blue Team lead as they report back and forth on the activities that are up on the crew access tower right now. And as part of that, the ULA and the range safety team are also monitoring all of the activities as well with a keen eye on safety. So the team is staying busy downstairs, and but for the most part, from a rocket processing perspective, the rocket's fully fueled and ready to go. So we'll just be waiting on loading our crew today, and then once the Starliner is all closed out, then our team will pick back up with those final preparations for launch. But for now, for the most part, the ULA team is kind of just in a monitor mode, just maintaining readiness for our instantaneous window today.
And for anyone who may be just joining us, I just wanted to let you all know at home, we are wearing headsets and listening to a lot of the chatter that's going on in the background. So you are hearing some of the public communications that are going across the loops, but we're also hearing some other things through our headsets. So it's our job to listen to those things and be able to translate them to you as they happen. So again, we are watching Commander Butch Wilmore get ingressed or entered into Starliner, and we are watching the pad team go through some of those procedures. One of the things I really wanted to mention about the seats is, some people might not realize that they're actually sort of laying on their back in this position. And Suni tells a story about it, that, they were both on shuttle, and shuttle landed with them sitting in sort of like a chair, like you would sit in a chair, and that, they studied the impacts over the years, and that it actually is safer and more comfortable to land on your back. So that's why they're in this position. Of course, once they get up into space, it won't make a difference, of course, but they are on their backs right now. So it looks like we are starting to see Suni make her way into Starliner. So to walk you through her procedures, we will send it back to Megan, Dee, and Nicole.
Thank you so much, Lauren and Dylan. So as she said, we now see Suni inside Starliner. She is to Butch's right. So Butch is closest to us on screen here, and then to his right is Suni getting into the pilot seat. And Nicole, she's actually getting in a lot earlier than we were expecting. Actually, the pad team has until an hour and 55 minutes before launch to finish ingressing both crew members. And look where we are. Suni getting into her seat 2 hours 27 minutes before launch, and crew ingress usually for each person takes 15 to 20 minutes. So really, all the math that I just said means they're ahead.
Yes, and that is all goodness. As I mentioned in the suit room, we do have some pad to the numbers just in case you need to troubleshoot something. So say, for example, as Suni's going to get strapped into the spacecraft, if one of the buckles breaks or if something is twisted and we need some extra time, since it's an instantaneous launch window, the last thing you want is something silly like that, something that we can fix, have the launch be scrubbed. So we do have this time built in for troubleshooting, and if everything goes smoothly like it is so far, then you'll see the crew ahead of schedule. This is also a great point to this being a first developmental test flight. This is the first time we're running through these procedures in a real spacecraft on a real launch day. So we'll learn a lot, and in the future, when there's more than 2 people on the spacecraft, we'll be able to recognize some of those efficiencies.
Yeah, and this is a great view, actually. So we have several views inside of Starliner. There's 4 camera views. There's someone in Houston who's monitoring, which camera view gives all of the teams monitoring this launch the best views. And this one is a really great view. We see 2 pad team members helping Suni get in, helping with her 5-point harness, as well as getting her leg and knee restraints on, right, Nicole?
Yes, you have your feet that are strapped in. You can see those white straps on the top of Suni's feet. You're also going to have your knee board strapped in. You want to make sure that all of your comm is connected properly, and then they will do comm checks with each other as well. And you can see on Butch's left knee there, he has those paper checklists. Those are also tethered down. And so every, through many hours, hundreds of hours of simulation, you figure out what works for you, exactly where you want everything. And so it's important on day of launch that you have everything set up just as you have trained.
Again, the astronauts Suni going through the same procedures that Butch just went through. Also, something that we'll see them do are reach checks, right? Because we are buckling them down so that they're comfortable and safe, but we need to make sure that they can reach all of the things that they need to reach during their flight.
Absolutely, and of course they've done that in training and on mission dress rehearsal, but again, you want to double check. And day of launch, you want to make sure maybe if you have something snagged that's going to hinder your reach, that could affect the mission. So we go through all those final checks one more time before the launch countdown continues.
And coming up soon, so that we all know to look for it, we expect Suni to reveal their zero gravity indicator. Usually it's a soft toy a crew picks to fly with them, and once that toy begins to float, it's a visual indicator, right, that they have reached the weightlessness of microgravity, because we just said they're buckled in, and really nothing else should be floating around except for that zero gravity indicator.
Yes, it's a great way to show that you've reached microgravity. Unfortunately, the camera views for Starliner when it's in free flight will not be transmitted back down to the ground real time. They'll be recorded, but not real time back down to the ground. So Suni will introduce this here on Earth.
And what we're showing you now is a kind of toothed whale, and that's a male narwhal. A narwhal, as you can see there, we're showing you because that is the zero-G indicator that Suni chose with the help of her niece and nephew. Suni wanted to choose an indicator that raised awareness for how space and ocean research go together. Obviously, we've been talking about how Suni's really passionate about the ocean. So, and again, after all, space and the ocean really do go together because space gives us a very unique vantage point of our oceans. So this particular narwhal toy that you saw Sunny holding in that picture coincidentally was named Calypso, which happens to be the name of today's Starliner spacecraft, which Sunny named in 2019. And she named it Calypso to pay homage to the explorer Jacques Cousteau. He sailed his ship named Calypso all over the world to teach people about the ocean. You see Mr. Cousteau right there. Now, Sunny believes Starliner will do the same for space, again, teaching people about space. And remember, Sunny wasn't supposed to fly on the spacecraft. She was initially assigned as the commander of Starliner 1, the first post-certification mission, as we've been mentioning, but she was later reassigned to CFT and feels it's an honor to fly on the spacecraft she named. So really, the stars all aligned for her to be on this flight test today.
She did. I think that's very special. I remember we were there all for the OFT landing when Butch revealed, or when Sunny revealed the name Calypso.
Yep, back in 2019. So look out for that zero gravity indicator. She had it in one of the bags that they're putting onto her. And so at some point when she's settled into her seat there, she will take it out, and then one of the pad team members will tether that indicator somewhere to the spacecraft again so we can see it free-floating when they reach microgravity.
And they have quite a few bags and satchels that are on their legs. Their right thigh pocket is a blue pocket, and then there they'll have any type of anything they need to get to in flight. So any medication or maybe a tissue or pens and pencils. And then they have a gray bag that's on their right shin pocket that has their emergency equipment, some food, emergency water, a whistle, a signaling mirror. And then on their left shin pocket, they'll have some personal items and their glasses if they need them, as well as a dosimeter.
And I want to go back to something you mentioned. You were mentioning the camera views inside of Starliner. So yes, we do have several camera views inside Starliner, and we will have those views all the way until launch. So we will get to keep our eyes on the crew all the way down to T0. Now, I want to mention some of the pad team members that we have here.
Com check.
Starliner Houston, we have you loud and clear, radar ground 1 for the PLT.
Got you loud and clear as well.
So comm checks again between Sunny and Houston. It's part of the ingressing process, right? They get into the Starliner spacecraft, they get buckled in, then they do these comm checks with Houston, they do comm checks with each other, and then they do suit leak checks, and then the pad team will make sure that everything that's not supposed to fly to space is out of Starliner before they close the hatch and get ready for liftoff.
Absolutely. They'll do one last check with the crew, and the crew is also, their displays are on, and so they're able to see the telemetry on the displays and check their systems, which I know, Butch was personally very excited about, and I agree with him. Seeing the actual data on the actual spacecraft is quite different than what you see in the simulator. Hopefully it matches very, very closely, and I'm sure that it does, but on launch day, it's real data. And so it's always interesting, something you want to take the time to walk through all of your subsystems.
Yeah, the last time Sunny and Butch were in Starliner was a little over a week ago. They were doing another rehearsal for today. And when asked how it felt, Sunny said it felt like they're where they're meant to be. It felt like coming home. And Butch is the one who said he can't wait to get in there and see real data and telemetry. So I'm sure he's excited but also focused.
Absolutely. I remember thinking at this moment when I launched, it felt so much like a training evolution. And I think that's a testament to how well the teams do in preparing for launch. We run through and rehearse everything, and that's a very comforting feeling because you have a lot on your mind and you want everything to go smoothly.
Throughout the broadcast, we've been hearing about each of their backgrounds. both are test pilots, and both have said that that background in particular has really helped them with this mission. Butch said our backgrounds are why we're here. And again, Suni giving a lot of credit to Butch, saying he's always asking why, and it's really been helpful, especially in a test flight.
Especially in a developmental test flight, there is so much to learn, and everybody is working together. But when you have that integrated spacecraft, how those systems come together, especially during an anomaly, is something that takes a lot of trial and learning as you go through that process. And so both of their backgrounds as test pilots have been absolutely instrumental in the development of Starliner.
So coming up next, the suit gross leak checks on Suni. You know, Nicole, we know that we might have some new viewers that might not have seen Butch's ingressing and his suit leak checks. So let's talk again about what that is and how that's accomplished. It's basically the same suit leak checks we saw, or essentially the same suit leak checks we saw in the suit up room, right?
Yes, it's the same, except for you're plugged into the actual spacecraft. Right. So you have the cabin fans providing that air, but you close your visor, zip the visor, and then increase the pressure of your suit. And we're really checking to make sure there's no leaks. So if you didn't get that zipper all the way zipped, or if there was, some hair caught in there or a tether caught, that would fail your leak check, or if you had another problem somewhere else in the suit. So that's our final check prior to the astronauts launching, that the suits are in good order. Again, they are there. The suits are there to protect them in the case of an anomaly. It will provide pressure and breathing air to keep the astronauts safe should there be a problem on board the spacecraft.
Look at that beautiful shot on the left side of your screen there of a Starliner atop.
PLC is ready to perform gross leak check.
Starliner atop the United Launch Alliance
Starliner
atmospheric
Houston,
rocket.
we copy, ready for the gross suit leak check. PLT, your go.
Okay, you can see Suni, she's closing her visor there, and she'll zip it closed, and then she has a little knob to increase the pressure of her suit, just a few psi, and then she'll pause to wait and make sure that her suit maintains good pressure before unzipping her visor and proceeding with the ingress.
And this is the first time we're seeing these suits in action. So, Nicole, did you have any input in how, I know that Suni and Butch, did you have any input in how these suits were designed?
Early on we worked a lot with David Clark and the suits. The design was pretty much set, but there were some modifications as the suits were built. We need to make sure that they fit each of the crew members and in a pressurized environment. And so there were some adjustments that David Clark went back and made on the suits to make sure that we had still the ability to reach everything when the suit was pressurized, and also some work on the zippers. You can see the zipper is a critical component there at the helmet. You need to make sure that it's zipped, so we need to be able to visually confirm that it's zipped, be able to hold on to a tether that's on the zipper, and that the zipper is strong enough, and then we have a proper technique for zipping that helmet.
Yeah, I remember Suni saying that one of the modifications was putting a T-bar onto the end of that zipper just so that they really had a good grip on it as they made sure that it was completely closed.
Absolutely. And even though you have pretty good dexterity in the gloves, it's still difficult to hold on to a little tether. So the T-bar helps quite a bit.
Suni is, of course, a retired U.S. Navy captain and Boeing CFT pilot. Some people might not know this, but Suni once lived underwater for 9 days while working within the robotics branch of the International Space Station. Did you know that, Nicole?
Yes, I think she was a part of the NEMO mission, which is a space analog. We have different types of missions, some underwater, some in caves, believe it or not, where we are working together with a small group, executing science in a mission, but at the same time we're working on those expeditionary skills, living and working together as a team, which are a really important aspect to human spaceflight.
Check of the clock, 2 hours, 13 minutes and counting until liftoff of NASA's Boeing crew flight test. Again, just want to spend another moment to call attention to the left side of the screen here and just that beautiful shot that we have of Starliner and Atlas V. Thank you for bringing it up full screen because it is really a great shot. Nicole just turned around. It's directly behind us here at the host desk. Just to take this moment in.
It's absolutely beautiful.
Sunset happening just about 20 minutes ago here on Florida's Space Coast. I mentioned this before, that things right now are looking good. The pad team had until 1 hour and 55 minutes to ingress the crew.
All right, there we go.
We just heard that comm communication from Suni there.
Looks like she was maybe troubleshooting a little something there with her suit. And so, again, that's why we have some additional time built into the schedule so that any type of issue, we have time to work through that and we don't feel rushed really in the process. You know, you want to make sure you have everything right. Safety is at the forefront of everybody's mind.
Copy. Let me know when you're ready to do contact.
Tech 5, you are now on air to ground 1.
PLT, Tech 5 on air to ground 1. How do you read me? Okay, I do not hear you. Do you hear me? Contact.
Air to ground 1, I got you loud and clear for PLT.
Copy, copy. I got you loud and clear on air to ground 1. Let's go air to ground 2 contact again. Tech 5.
Air to ground 1 is one channel, one way of communicating. Air to ground 2 is a secondary line as well. Again, you've heard our commentators mentioning that they're monitoring, listening to the launch teams who are working this mission. We have some loops up publicly for you guys to listen in and to track how the countdown is progressing. And then there are some other side channels that a lot of work is also done in the background as well.
PLT, gross leak check is complete.
Starliner, it's Houston. We copy gross suit leak check complete on the PLT, and I have you loud and clear, Suni, here on air to ground 1.
Okay, I got you loud and clear as well.
All right, 2 good call-outs there. Successful communication check with Houston between Suni, as well as a good check of her suit, making sure that it holds pressure as expected.
L minus 2 hours, 10 minutes.
ECS, Elsie.
Tech 5, you're back on air to ground 1.
ECS?
All right,
That's
PLT.
SCSA
So we
rate to
confirm that you got good
170
airflow
pounds
with
per minute.
correct?
Roger.
PLT, you can open your visor now.
All right, with Suni opening her visor after a
And
successful...
PLT, perform comm check on ICOM with CDR.
That's a command to do a communication check between Suni and Butch. And while they do that, why don't we hear more about Suni's journey to this moment right now?
Exploration is curiosity. It's asking the question why. It's taking that next step. Every time we do something for the first time, we're expanding our knowledge. My name is Suni Williams, and I'm the pilot for NASA's Boeing crew flight test mission to the International Space Station. I feel really lucky to have grown up in a small town outside of Boston, Needham, Massachusetts. It was a great town because we were able to ride our bikes everywhere we went. My brother, sister, and I, we were all swimmers, and it was just a great childhood My dad was a doctor and also did neuroscience research. We were the strange family who had pictures and diagrams of brains on our dining room table. My older brother went to the Naval Academy. I started researching a little bit and I thought, well, what the heck, I'll try this out. And when I went, I found that I really loved it. Teamwork, followership, leadership, those opportunities that we had right from the very beginning, and to accomplish something a little bit bigger than yourself. And I think that paved the way for the rest of my career. Got a basic engineering degree from the Naval Academy. I really didn't know what it was all about when I went through that course curriculum, but when I went to test pilot school, all of that stuff sort of gelled together. I was like, oh wow, this is why we do math modeling. This is how we try to predict how change in an engine is going to affect the way the helicopter flies. Time on the International Space Station is priceless. People always ask, do you get bored, or, is it terrible being up there for a long period of time? And for me, I loved every minute. There was always something to do. You wake up, you look at your timeline like, wow, I gotta do this experiment today, I gotta get ready for a spacewalk. Every day was different, and just life on the space station becomes routine, which is sort of crazy to think about it. At one point in time on my first mission, I was like, I don't even remember really what it's like to walk. I've been flying around for so long, I don't even know what it's like to sit down. I got assigned to the commercial crew cadre in 2015. We went to the companies, found out the shell of their programs, and then actually started working with them to make them what they are today to accommodate astronauts. For Starliner, we've been heavily involved in the last couple of years in the software with the folks doing the development to make sure its capability will allow us to come home. And we've been involved with all the suit development, making sure every different size of person could fit in all these suits and they could operate the spacecraft adequately. We've had our fingers on every single procedure that we work inside the cockpit, as well as operated it with our mission control team to make sure that everything that future crews will do will be right. We haven't had the classic training as we had for Shuttle and Soyuz. We've sort of helped develop the training as well as the hardware. And this is sort of the shape of things to come as we get ready to go back to the moon. All of that is going to be developmental, and we're going to have the same mindset. It's not already established. We all have to be part of this big team to help develop it and make sure that integration, as the astronauts use all this equipment, is going to be top-notch and ready to take us even further.
2 hours, 6 minutes and counting until liftoff of CFT. Both Butch and Suni inside Starliner, which is sitting on top of a United Launch Alliance Atlas V rocket at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station's Launch Pad 41. As you can see, we still have a pad team member in there. Looks like they're still helping either Suni with something or, again, just readying the spacecraft for launch.
It's interesting because the spacecraft is made for microgravity, and so actually you can't stand on the floor of the spacecraft, and so there's some special flooring pieces that are installed so that the pad team can walk around without damaging any of the components of the spacecraft and help get the astronauts strapped in. So I know as one of their final checks, they'll remove that specialized flooring and check the configuration inside of the spacecraft. As you mentioned, to get everything out that doesn't need to go to space.
Oh, there it is. It looks like they have taken the narwhal out and they are finding a place to tether it. Maybe I'm just imagining it because I can't really see Suni's face, but she looks happy to see the narwhal out. Again, a special zero gravity indicator that she picked with her niece and nephew.
Pad, you are now on air to ground 1.
Copy. Starliner crew, is there anything else you need help with before we leave and close the hatch?
Waiting to hear if Butch and Suni say anything over the loops.
All right, Starliner crew, it's been an honor to strap in. Not my crew, but my friends. Have a safe flight. See you up there.
I love that.
Sounds like strap-in, everything went well. And you weren't imagining, I did see a smile on Suni's face, and I could see Norval tethered there in the middle.
And again, I love that comm check again to say they're friends. Dee, you've been saying this throughout the broadcast, really, but Butch and Suni have been working so closely with everyone who is needed to make this mission possible that they kind of all just feel like family.
Absolutely. You know, we've been working with them for years. They've been a part of, just as Nicole mentioned, all of the processes, all of the training, making sure that the spacecraft works as it is supposed to. And of course, now they're both on this flight test where they're going to do this mission and confirm that. So, you know, we have gotten very, very close with them. And this is an exciting moment for us to see this. And looking forward to seeing them lift off and begin this mission.
You know, it's interesting because you think of, you know, Butch and Suni, of course, are the astronauts on top of the rocket right now and the ones going to space, but they really do represent, you know, that huge family of NASA and Boeing and everybody that's worked so hard to get to this point.
Go ahead, AC.
Okay, evaluating the SRV, we're most likely getting above the call cycles of this valve. We still have 2+ hours to go, so most likely exceeding the call value. We do not have a path to proceed further at this point.
Roger. So at this point, your recommendation is to secure operations for today?
That is correct.
Roger. LD, LC on channel 1.
Yes, sir. LD concurs with that.
Roger. Flight and Slick, channel 1.
Flight here. Slick's on channel 1.
Yeah, Roger. So the engineering team has evaluated the vehicle is not in a configuration where we can proceed with flight today. So we're going to initiate our scrub and recycle operation.
Roger.
Flight copy.
Roger.
And if you're just joining us, I'll look at the clock
well,
here.
Personnel, this is LC on channel 1. Let's turn to page 187, scrub crew egress operations.
Again, the clock 2 hours ahead of what we were targeting, a 10:34 and 14-second p.m. Eastern Time liftoff. But you just heard from the launch team that we are scrubbing
OSM,
for today.
LC.
OSM, go ahead, sir.
Establish the BDA roadblocks and open the flight hazard area.
Roger.
All personnel on channel 1 will be starting an estimated 65-minute hold at this time for flight crew egress. All systems maintain T-4 configuration.
As we hear some communication between team members, let's get it over to ULA's Dylan Rice to walk us through what we know so far and what we can expect moving forward today.
Thanks, Megan. So the team has had some observations on an oxygen relief valve on our Centaur second stage. And the team is just not comfortable with the signatures that they're seeing, the response out of that valve, and so out of an abundance of caution, we are not going to continue with our launch operations today. And as you heard, the Chief Launch Conductor Doug Lebo call the team there and have the team prepare for scrub operations and to prep for removal of the crew from Starliner.
Valve problem, more to follow.
So next steps, the team is going to be maintaining the configuration of the rocket, and we'll begin the process of egressing the crew. And once the crew is egressed and the blue team is safely left the pad, at that point we'll begin detanking the rocket and securing for the evening so that teams can continue to review data and troubleshoot the signature noted with the valve on board Centaur.
Channel
course,
1.
disappointing.
Go ahead,
but
sir.
Sunny
Yes, sir.
even said
So
nothing
you
special
may have
about-
heard on Channel 1 we're standing down for today. So starting to initiate getting the vehicle in configuration to egress the crew.
Roger, welcome.
So I was saying, Sunny even said, nothing special about this date on the calendar. We will go when we're ready. Not today, but we'll try this again. So a lot of what's going to be happening now is sort of what we've seen happen up to this point, just in reverse.
Right, and again, this decision was not made lightly, but really out of an abundance of caution. We say that the rocket business is a business of 10 million details, and only when all 10 million details are correct and where you want them to be do you let your rocket fly. So for today, we're going to go back and
Slick LC Channel 1.
LC, you have Slick.
Yeah, Roger. So I'll rely on you timing-wise to let me know when you're ready for the CTV convoy to return to pad.
Yep, I was working that right now.
Roger.
So again, for now, we'll going to be maintaining the configuration of the launch vehicle until the crew and the blue team have exited the area, and at that point, we'll begin detanking and securing the launch vehicle for the evening. So for now, I think we'll turn it back over to Megan at the host desk.
Thank you, Dylan. Again, just a recap for folks, about 4 minutes ago, the launch team decided to stand down from the launch attempt today. Dylan noting for us that the ULA folks and the launch team, they decided to, out of an abundance of caution, to stand down because they saw something off nominal with an oxygen relief valve on Centaur. So right now we are looking live inside the White Room, where the pad team will begin procedures to help the crew out of Starliner, out and down the crew access tower. And then we also heard that plans are in place to return the Astrovan to the pad to pick up the team and return them to astronaut crew quarters. Now, Nicole, walk us through what we expect to see. There are obviously procedures in place for this exact thing, if needed.
Absolutely, and this is trained and rehearsed multiple times as well, and so ULA will make sure the rocket is in a good state, and they will follow their procedures. As far as the crew specifically, since the hatch wasn't closed and ordnance wasn't armed, it's quite simple for the crew. They'll wait for some callouts to make sure that the spacecraft's in a good config. That will be putting the comm, demerging the comm channels, transitioning back to ground power, and making sure that the prop system is all secured. And then the crew will egress. They'll pretty much do exactly what they did to get in, but an opposite with help of the pad team.
Okay. Do you know how long we expect that to happen? Is this a long process, or for the most part, this is pretty easy once we know it is safe for them to start getting out?
Once the rocket, we know the rocket's in a good config and they give the go, it's relatively quick to make sure that...
RLM-11.
Go ahead.
RLM line items disabled for red line report.
Roger. Peony 2 LC.
Go ahead.
Secure CEC and activate safing purge.
Roger.
And you hear the comm...
FTS LC.
FTS.
Secure RF FTS and GPS metric tracking.
Roger.
That's the comm there from ULA. They are following their specific, procedure, and it's really just true professionals executing the scrub on the ULA side, as well as Boeing.
CEC secured and saving purge active.
Roger.
Another look inside Starliner. Butch and Sunny there. Butch closest to us, Sunny to his right, and a pad team member in there who will soon help them get out of Starliner. Nicole, you were saying, you must know how they how they might be feeling right now. You're close with them as friends and also as a fellow astronaut.
Absolutely. I mean, I think, of course, a natural human reaction is a little bit of disappointment. It's a very exciting time, and we all want to see, this spacecraft launch. But at the same time, it's a deep sense of appreciation that the team is doing the right thing, that they are checking all of the instrumentation, that they are able to identify something that's off nominal, because the last thing you want to do is deal with something like that in space. And so when we identify something like this on the ground, we see that as a big win. We avoided a potential problem by identifying it early. And yep, the wool scrub. This is something I think as an astronaut you train to multiple times, and you're prepared for that as well. It's important that you keep your head in the game, though, because potentially they could launch tomorrow, depending on the findings of this investigation. And so you maintain your focus. You are still sitting on top of a rocket filled with prop, and so you follow your procedures just like everybody does. You never let your guard down, and they'll execute the steps to safely get out of the spacecraft, and then they'll go back to crew quarters. They'll maintain their quarantine so that they can preserve a launch opportunity, and then they'll wait for more information from the team.
Yeah, you talk about how the team rehearses all different scenarios. It truly is. I mean, can you talk for those who might not know, can you talk about the process of, simulating all the things that could go wrong so that if it does happen, everything is kind of rote. It's kind of just like muscle memory, and you don't really have to think too much because you just know it like the back of your hand.
Absolutely. That is the most important part about being well trained. And it's not only the astronauts, it's the entire team. So you see that the pad team knows exactly what they need to be doing. You can hear the comm from ULA. Everybody at their console has specific responsibilities and steps that they need to take. And each member of the team is critical to make sure that we're successful in these type of procedures. And we train to them in simulations, scrubbing, and pretty every contingency that we can think of, we will actually run through. In the few instances where I've been involved in an actual contingency or an emergency, you're right. The training really takes over. You maintain focus, you execute your procedures, and it's really not until after that's all done that you realize that...
Hey, Houston Starliner, we're standing by. As we said, we did go ahead and unstrap. Curious if we're going to run anything in the scrub recycle procedure as you're looking forward, since we didn't get very far.
Starliner Houston, loud and clear. We are running it. A lot of the events are sort of no perform because we didn't get that far in the count. I will keep you appraised. The main action on your radar will be bringing the suit fan Bravo to off before you jump out.
Yeah, and we're not going to open the cabin vent valve or anything, I'm assuming, as well.
Negative, yeah. Hatch is open, so none of that applies.
Yeah, that's what I see. Okay, thanks.
And that was our Capcom capsule communicator, Josh Kutrick, who will be flying on Starliner 1. He's the Capcom for Ascent, and he was just talking to Butch about the scrub recycle procedures that he has in his checklist.
And Capcom is the voice that we've primarily been hearing talk to the astronauts, correct?
Yes, during the comm checks, you'll hear a lot of different folks talking on the loops. But really, once the launch happens and they get to orbit, then the only person talking to the crew is the Capcom.
And LC Slick on Channel 1.
Go ahead, Slick.
Yeah, we're getting ready for crew egress, so we would be good for the CTV to come to the pad gate and hold there.
Roger. OSM, LC?
OSM.
Roger. Notify crew transport convoy to return to pad, permit entry into the BDA, and ask them to hold at the pad gate, please.
Roger.
Call-outs now to have the Astrovan return to the launch pad to pick up the crew once they have egressed. Excuse me.
And you can see Butch and Suni, they're unstrapped and visors are up. They're just waiting for the call from ground to turn off that suit fan, which is the fan that's providing air to their suits prior to detaching their suits from the spacecraft and exiting Starliner.
Again, if folks are just joining us, about 12 minutes ago, the launch team has decided to stand down from today's launch attempt. We were targeting 10:34 and 14 seconds Eastern Time for liftoff of NASA's Boeing crew flight test. We now are looking at Commander Butch Wilmore and pilot Suni Williams. They are in the Starliner spacecraft, awaiting word that they can continue with egress procedures.
Starliner Houston, still with you. No real change. OFM is off. The prop system is not secure, but it's an unknown and an expected config, and we'll still get suit fan Bravo off here before you jump out. Otherwise, just stand by for us.
Yep, we're standing by. Thank you.
The reason the launch team is standing down today is so that they can evaluate an oxygen relief valve on Centaur. That's the second stage of ULA's Atlas V rocket. Nicole, some of those call-outs we just heard over the operational communication loops, or nets as they're called, again, just taking steps towards safing the launch vehicle, right?
Yes, ULA is working towards making sure the launch vehicle is in a good config, and then Mission Control is focusing on Starliner, the spacecraft itself, to make sure that the systems are in the proper configuration before the astronauts exit the spacecraft. And I think you heard the call there from Josh that the final thing will be to turn their suit fans off. And so the controllers in Mission Control, the flight controllers, are now sending commands, to the spacecraft to get it in that good config. And then Butch will send that final command for the suit fan.
Throughout the show, we've had commentators across NASA, Boeing, and ULA monitoring the launch. So why don't we head back over to our ULA commentator, Dylan Rice, who continues to monitor what's happening now as we take steps to egress the crew.
Thanks, Megan. Yeah, you've heard some of the communication as the team has gotten into the securing processes here. So from a rocket perspective, really what's going to happen next is we're just going to hold the current configuration of the rocket. We're not going to start detanking. We're not changing any configuration at all until the crew has egressed the capsule and the team has left the pad. There were a couple of
LCOSM.
Go ahead.
Yes, sir. You have per step 90. You have 20 personnel entering BDA at this time.
Roger.
Okay, with that call indicating the crew convoy has now arrived back at the pad. But there were a couple initial securing items that we did early on in the process here, and that was securing our RF systems and then stopping the Centaur engine chill down, given that we're not planning on launching today. Otherwise, the launch vehicle is maintaining a safe configuration until we get the crew and the blue team away from the pad. And in a situation like this, if we see any data signature that is not something that we have seen before, then we are just simply not willing to take any chances with what is our most precious payload. So we're going to take a step back, go review that data, go understand why this signature is different from what is in our previous experience base, and then we'll take whatever action required before we reattempt a launch. So for now, the team is going to continue to watch over the launch vehicle as the crew gets ready to egress the capsule. The three members of the ULA Blue team now are going to be standing by, waiting to secure the white room once the crew has egressed Starliner, and then at that point we'll close Starliner up and begin our detanking. So in our planning and in our practice runs, that whole process takes just a little over an hour. So we're I believe we're approximately 15 minutes into that time now. So very shortly we'll be seeing the astronauts egress the capsule and then make their way down the crew access tower back to the van and back over to the ONC for the evening.
And of course, all of our teams do so much training, so many run-throughs, and scrubs are no different. We run through good days and we also run through scrubs. So this is not the first time these teams are going through these motions, even though this is the first time we have had a crew on Starliner. So they will be going through their procedures for this scrub. I think we saw just a second ago some of the pad team members flipping through, and they're going to be leaving everything in the proper configuration for...
And Houston TLT is egressing. I'm waiting on the suit fan call.
Copy. We still got good video, and we will call you for suit fan Bravo. Thanks.
Okay, up.
All right, so Butch just waiting now while Suni gets out first. Just like we saw Butch going first, Suni come in second. They'll go.
And Starliner, Houston for CDR this time. We see you getting out. As soon as you are on your way out, you go to shut that suit fan Bravo off. Let us know when it's off.
Welcome.
And Suni making her way out of the spacecraft now. The pad team there to help her get out.
You know, and Lauren, just like we talked about when we started the built-in hold as we prepared to load the astronauts, this countdown has really been developed to support, you know, not only just 2 astronauts but 5, even 7 astronauts on Starliner, right? So the same thing with the egress procedure. When it comes time to pull astronauts out, the time that we've got allocated could support as many supports pulling a full complement of astronauts off of Starliner. That's not what we're doing today. We've just got Butch and Suni on board, and so you know, it is possible that we'll be moving much more quickly into our scrub detank operations. But for now, we've got bookmarked at 65 minutes to get the crew off, but probably will not quite take that long, given that we're only pulling two people out of Starliner.
And of course, this happened early enough in the countdown that the pad team was still there. We didn't have to wait for the pad team to return and help them get out. So as Suni is going through her scrub procedures right now in the white room outside of Starliner, Butch is waiting for the pad team to help him egress the spacecraft.
And again, these are contingency procedures that, just like the launch procedures, we have exercised these contingency procedures as well for launch scrubs and having to come down off the tower and head back to the ONC. So nothing new to this team. This team has been through these procedures, and they're very well understood.
LC Slick on channel 1.
Go ahead, Slick.
Hey, looks like CDR is out. We're going to go do a few things, but we'd be ready to do comm checks with LC on the OSC radio here in a minute, and we'll get the CTV up to the base of the cat.
Roger.
You see Butch is now out of Starliner, back into the white room as they start to detach some of those items that were on his spacesuit.
You know, that previous call we just heard as well. Once the astronauts are out of the capsule and the blue team is complete up on the tower, they're not in complete communication. You know, via the hardline communication systems, like we've been talking nets and loops all evening long. So that previous call there was to establish a comm check with the chief launch conductor via the walkie-talkies. So we do have the walkie-talkies available for those periods of time when we're not actually on the hardline communication system. So they'll be executing that comm check shortly. And again, that's per one of our contingency procedures. We have got plans in place to address most problems that come up, and that is one of them. That just make sure your walkie-talkies work before you unplug yourself from the hardline communications systems. And again, those walkie-talkies allowing the team to communicate with the team in the field to communicate with the team back here in the Launch Control Center as they're driving out of the pad and over to the fallback area.
The Astrovan will be there shortly to pick them back up and take them back over to crew quarters. If you are just joining us, We were supposed to be about an hour and 38 minutes away from launch right now, but the teams have decided to stand down today. That's why you see the astronauts in the white room. They were strapped into Starliner, and we have just been going through procedures to get them back out of Starliner and soon headed back to crew quarters. A lot of the things we walked you through earlier, they're doing in reverse right now, just to make sure that everything is in the proper config for the next attempt. You know, Dylan, Suni recently was talking to media, and she made the comment that one of her...
OSM, LC.
OSM, go ahead, sir.
Roger. Crew transport vehicles clear to proceed to the CAT.
Roger, copy that.
All right, so the Astro van will be pulling up to the crew access tower now to come pick up Butch and Suni. As I was saying, Suni was recently speaking with the media, and she was telling us that one of her other friends, her astronaut buddies, said, you know, just so you know, in case there's any kind of a scrub, sometimes that's just good to knock the nerves off for everyone, and it could, you know, be good luck to go again another day. So they are veteran astronauts and quite used to how often scrubs do happen in spaceflight. You could see they're laughing there on the left of your screen, so they're in good spirits. Of course, these days are, you know, disappointing for teams,
LC
but
Slick on channel
definitely
1.
not
Go
something.
ahead, Slick.
We're ready for the flight crew and support personnel to perform OSE radio comm checks and to proceed to the ground level. They'll exit the white room and give you a call.
Roger.
And Lauren, as test pilots, you know, they're very familiar with contingency procedures
Yes.
as well. Because when you're testing a new system, obviously there's always going to be some findings, some of them more significant than others. But either way, the test pilots would be in a unique position to expect the unexpected and to be adaptive, which I know both of them are.
And with this being a test flight, even in a scrub situation, all the teams involved are going to be learning things. I'm sure Butch and Suni will have things to note.
has arrived at the base of the CAT.
Roger.
The Astrovan is at the base of the crew access tower now. So as you see Butch and Suni having a conversation with the pad team there, I'm sure we will see them starting to head down momentarily. Teams on some of the side nets are telling us the crew egress procedures are complete. Suni getting some help with her helmet there. All right, they are on the move. They are going to be headed back into the elevator. They are on level 12, so headed back down to the base of the crew access tower, and we'll get back into the Astro van to head back to crew quarters. And with that, we will send it back over to the ladies at the desk, Megan, Dee, and Nicole.
Thank you, Lauren and Dylan, for giving us more insight into today's scrub. Now, so we just saw Suni and Butch get into the elevator from level 12 here at the crew access tower, and they are now going down to the pad, where, as you just heard, they will get into the Astrovan. Nicole, what are the next procedures, right? So they'll go back to astronaut crew quarters, and what happens then?
So they'll go back there and obviously get out of their spacesuits, and then we can expect a brief. The astronauts will get briefed on the details of the anomaly that was seen on Centaur and
Flight crew
information
have
on
arrived at the ground floor and exited the CAT elevator.
Roger.
and information on what the next plan is. And so, hopefully we have an opportunity to launch tomorrow, but we don't have enough information yet to know. But the crew will plan on that, right? They have to always be prepared. And so they will follow their schedule as far as eating and sleeping and other, briefings that they need to obtain. And they'll make sure that they kind of reset themselves. They'll have a chance to reunite with their immediate family. And again, that's why everybody stays in quarantine, so that even in a situation like this, they can, the support folks as well as family can still be together.
Yeah, everything is choreographed down to the minute. You were talking about their schedule because, again, since this launch is later at night, everything has to shift so that they're awake and ready for launch when it is.
Yes, sleep shift is a big part of it, and even though we see this launch at 22:30, the astronauts have already been up for 5 hours, and once they launch and get to orbit, they still have a lot to do in orbit to test out the systems of Starliner, and so it's a very long day. It's important that they are well rested and ready to go.
And now we see the Astrovan backing up away from the elevator that took the crew to and from level 12 of the crew access tower. Again, on their way to astronaut crew quarters inside the Neil A. Armstrong Operations and Checkout Building. This drive, again, will take about 20 to 25 minutes. Nicole, you mentioned that because of the scrub, they will have time to see their families again. That must be nice to have that opportunity to reconnect with them.
I think it is. There's always, a ton of emotions associated with launch, and maybe you don't realize it at the time, but I remember talking to my husband and son after launch.
Crew transport vehicle has exited the pad gate.
Roger.
And just a comment on how much just energy and excitement. And when you have all those emotions running through your body, it can be quite exhausting. So it'll be nice to have a chance to reunite with their family, as well as the astronauts and the other support personnel back at crew quarters. I'm sure they'll have a nice meal, which I know Butch always comments on the wonderful food and the folks that take care of us at astronaut crew quarters. And so we're thankful to continue to have their support, and then we'll be standing by for the next steps.
Yeah, that's interesting and very correct of you to say that Butch, in the last few days leading up to launch, has been talking about how excited he is for the food here at KSC. So hats off to the chefs at Astronaut Crew Quarters. Butch was looking forward to a meatloaf meal. I'm sure he had it before launch. And Suni was looking forward to eating some salmon. So at least they'll be treated to another delicious meal at Astronaut Crew Quarters.
And even, the folks all the way from the chefs to the to everybody that keeps the crew quarters up and functioning, this has all been rehearsed and part of a plan. So all these the contingency plans are laid out and in place, and now they just need to be executed.
And you had mentioned that there is an opportunity to launch tomorrow. There's an opportunity to launch May 10th and May 11th as well. We say opportunities to launch because we just know the date and time is reserved on the range. Can you talk to us about that?
Yes, an opportunity really means, from an orbital mechanics standpoint, as far as the spacecraft rendezvousing in a proper profile with the International Space Station and range availability. That's all we know when we say a launch attempt. There's still a lot of other factors, weather often being one of the biggest ones, and then of course the status of the spacecraft and the rocket. Those are the status is unknown right now, and so we'll stand by for further information. And once we have that information, NASA together with Boeing and ULA will determine what the next launch attempt will be. So that's kind of the difference when we talk about a launch opportunity versus a launch attempt.
Right. So I'll list, the backup launch opportunities we have. But again, these are just opportunities, as Nicole has been saying, and as well as Dylan.
LC, this is FTS on Channel 1.
Go ahead, FTS.
Yeah, step 50, RF, FTS, and GPS metric tracking is secured.
Roger.
if you're just joining us, about 30 minutes ago.
LCOSM.
Go ahead.
Yes, sir. 22 personnel have exited BDA area.
Roger.
About 30 minutes ago, the launch team decided to stand down from today's launch attempt of NASA's Boeing crew flight test. Out of an abundance of caution, the launch team wants to reevaluate an oxygen relief valve on the Centaur, which is the upper stage of the Atlas V rocket. Right now on your screen, you're watching Butch and Suni and their full security convoy make their way from Launch Pad 41 on the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, and they will make their way through Kennedy Space Center to make their way back to astronaut crew quarters. The ULA team will evaluate, again, that valve.
Good morning.
And Nicole, you were saying that you expect the crew to get some sort of briefing as to what information the team might have to share with them when they get back to crew quarters.
Absolutely. I expect that they'll get a preliminary briefing as soon as they get changed out of their flight suits or spacesuits, excuse me, and
morning, Judge.
with just the information that they have. And then they'll set a time for a follow-on briefing. Maybe that will be tonight, maybe it'll be tomorrow. It really depends on the situation. But it's important that the crew is aware of what the issue was and that they understand the steps that were taken, obviously before they attempt another launch.
We've been saying throughout the broadcast that Butch always likes to ask why. I'm sure he'll be very vocal as we make plans for a next launch attempt.
Absolutely, and rightfully so, I think, and the great thing is that we have a great team with Boeing and ULA and NASA, and so everybody will come together and talk about, the anomaly and what they've done to address it, and then together we'll make a decision. They'll make a decision when it's appropriate to attempt another launch, and so it's really a team effort, and it's important that we have each member of the team looking at those different opportunities and looking at them from each different perspective. And again, we'll also be taking a look at the weather, so a lot of other factors that will roll into it.
From the host desk here, we can see in the distance some of the lights from the convoy making their way
under Rule 3,
past the press site here where we are sitting, which is across the street from NASA's Vehicle Assembly Building.
This is a non-violent
And then they will make their way to crew quarters.
Anybody mentioned? I'm sorry, there is a weird ghost sound going on.
Nicole, you said again that
so weird.
this was all prepared for and thought of in case this did happen, and we did see very quickly how everyone knew what to do.
Yes, sir. Talking with the Denver team and our team, we're probably going to want to do that troubleshooting that we had come up with on this SRV once we get the pad cleared. So I'd like permission to take that to 6 and get that discussed, get you a recommendation.
Roger, please, community anomaly team, provide a recommendation. I'd estimate at this time it'd be about 30 minutes. We'll be ready to start detanking.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Absolutely. Everything is rehearsed from what we call nominal operations, where everything goes perfectly smooth, to little issues, so that everybody's aware how to troubleshoot those and what their roles and responsibilities are, as well as a scrub, as well as major contingencies. We really practice all of those different scenarios so that the team is prepared. And I think you'll see, or you can recognize today how calm everybody was, and they're executing their procedures. Everybody knows that their role, and quite quickly we talked about the situation, and Butch and And I think we see the Astro van passing the press site and the VAB right now.
Crew quarters, probably another 10-minute drive from here. This crew flight test, a historic one, only the 6th time that NASA will fly a new crew transportation vehicle. As you said, Nicole, I'm sure Butch and Suni might be a bit disappointed, but they know as veteran space flyers, this is part of the process. You know, everything has to be right, and a particular date and time isn't the final say at all.
Oh, you're absolutely right. There's nothing about a particular date and a time. You know, when's the right time is to launch is when the rocket's ready, when the spacecraft is ready, when the crew is ready. That's all that really matters. So it's just part of the business. You know, we are literally launching humans into space, and it is rocket science. So it's not easy, and we just appreciate, you know, the professionalism of the team, keeping a close eye on all the instrumentation and identifying any potential issues early. So that we can do the right thing and make sure that when we do launch, that it is as safe as feasibly possible.
Yeah, it's a good point to, again, remind folks, yes, this is literal rocket science, and sometimes might be easy to forget that because a lot of it is a well-oiled machine. You know, teams, again, proficient and ready in all of their respective roles, that sometimes it might look easy.
You know, I think you're right. Sometimes I think, especially recently in the past, you know, maybe 5 years or so, we've had so many launches. I mean, there was a launch earlier today. It's absolutely incredible. And it's just a great reminder that this will never be routine. Mm-hmm. It never can be. It is a very, you know, it's a very dangerous business, and that's why we have professional teams doing all the checks and making sure it's that we mitigate the risk the best that we can. And so it's a great reminder to never take that for granted.
Anything you might want to say to Butch and Suni tonight? I mean, actually, do you plan to maybe have an opportunity to touch base with them, and what might you say to them?
You know, I'll shoot them a text, but I'm sure they'll be quite busy with, you know, seeing their family, and I'm sure that from their family and friends, you can imagine how many texts and phone calls they're going to get. But you know, I think it's important that they maintain focus, and they know that too. So I think a lot of you know, folks, especially in the astronaut corps, will kind of just leave them alone, knowing that they have a lot to deal with, a lot going on. They need to stay in the game because potentially they could launch tomorrow, since there is a launch opportunity. And I can just imagine Butch with a smile on his face saying, "Yeah, well, this is human spaceflight. That's the way it goes," you know. Mm-hmm. And he and Suni thinking of this as just another great rehearsal for the entire team to walk through. And the next time they have an opportunity to walk out and ingress the spacecraft, you would expect it to go even smoother, and they're going to feel even more comfortable doing that. So I think that's the correct mindset to have. That's the best way to go about it.
He actually just reminded me, you know, Butch, in one of the recent interviews was asked, you know, what do you think of setbacks? You know, if there's a setback, what do you think of that? And he goes, you know, they're not setbacks, they're steps forward. So as you said, another rehearsal, another opportunity to fine-tune anything to make sure that the next time is even better than the last.
Absolutely, and a great reminder that this is a developmental flight test. And this is, as you mentioned, we've only done this 6 other times in the history of humankind, and so it is a big deal. And every time we learn something and we overcome that challenge and we move forward, and that is a step in the right direction. That is progress.
We're going to see the convoy turn left here in just a few seconds, and then it's a straight shot back to the operations and checkout building here at Kennedy Space Center, where the west wing of the 3rd floor, that is the astronaut crew quarters, a historic area of the ONC, where Butch and Suni will go back to for the night.
And Butch and Suni have extensive experience launching. Obviously, each of them have launched twice to space, but they've also supported other astronauts launching from Kennedy Space Center multiple times. Butch specifically was a Cape Crusader back in the day, so he was, specifically a crew member that came out to support launches. And that's a lot of back and forth, and I'm sure he's seen a lot of scrubs and taken a part in successful launches and days when it's just not going to be our day to launch and you're going to come back and launch another day. So, he's seen it from the perspective of a crew member as well as a perspective of a support astronaut. In fact, Butch has flown the T-38 across the Gulf of Mexico 458 times.
Oh, wow.
And you know how I know that? He counts every time.
No.
It tells us. Yes.
Very meticulous.
As a true naval aviator, yes, he's very proud of it. But it really just shows his extensive experience that he has in human spaceflight.
Mm-hmm. And Suni too. Again, we've been listening to their backgrounds throughout this broadcast, and they both bring so much knowledge and experience to this moment. So, really honored to get to watch them take us through this developmental program and this flight test. And when they launch, it'll be really exciting to see.
Absolutely, and you see their demeanor, right? They're very calm, cool, and collected, shaking hands with everybody, and that's what a veteran astronaut does. And they really set the example for all the astronauts and really, all humans, how to deal with, a situation that didn't go exactly as planned. You do it just like Butch and Suni are doing here.
We're tracking the Astrovan, pulling into the parking lot of the operations and checkout building here at Kennedy Space Center. Make a couple of turns, and then we'll see the Astrovan back in front of those doors we saw Butch and Suni walk out of about 2 hours ago. Looks like we have a couple of NASA astronauts there for their arrival.
Oh, there's Mike Fink. We just saw him, Mike Fink, walking up. So he's still obviously there every step of the way to support the astronauts.
Yeah, after we saw him leave the pad in the Astrovan, Mike went back to the Boeing Mission Control Center here at Kennedy. It's the building we pointed out right next to the vehicle assembly building. And he was going to watch launch from there. So I'm sure after the scrub was called, he made a point to be back here to welcome Suni and Butch. Yeah, so quick final. And if you're just joining us, welcome to Kennedy Space Center in Florida, where at about 8:34 this evening, the launch team decided to stand down from today's launch attempt of NASA's Boeing crew flight tests. That was after the ULA team decided to reevaluate an oxygen relief valve that's on the Centaur upper stage. So that's the upper stage of the Atlas V rocket. If you have been watching us, you saw just a few minutes ago NASA astronauts Commander Butch Wilmore as well as pilot Suni Williams. They have exited the Astrovan after the Astrovan picked them up from Launch Pad 41 and took them back to astronaut crew quarters, where they will spend the night and get updated as to the next steps to when another launch attempt can be made. I want to open it up to the hostess here now. Nicole, any final thoughts as we await some information about what happened tonight and again, the steps moving forward?
Of course, just a really professional job done by the team in identifying a potential issue and then initiating the scrub. It was executed as planned, and the astronauts are now back at crew quarters, and they'll receive a briefing on the next launch opportunity, and hopefully that is soon. But in the meantime, we'll be standing by, and I know we all feel maybe a little bit disappointed, but this is a human space flight, and that's the way things go. There's a lot that goes into launching humans safely from the planet. And so I think that I just feel, thankful that this potential issue was caught early and that everybody is safe. And we're looking forward to another attempt soon.
Yeah, well said, Nicole. And Dee, from Boeing's standpoint, anything you'd like to say?
Absolutely. Of course, safety is our top priority. So, and this is no different. We really appreciate ULA's partnership throughout the Boeing Starliner program and their work with commercial crew. And, we'll fly when we're ready.
Right. All right, so with that, we want to pull up on the screen right now the link to the Commercial Crew blog, and that is where we will post the latest information about an upcoming press conference that we do plan to have. We do want to be able to share with you what we do know about the reason why we stood down today from launch. So again, take a look at your screen, blogs.nasa.gov/Boeing crew flight test. Again, that's where you can go to find out when we will have that press conference, which will be on NASA TV. So again, you are watching NASA TV right now, so this is the place where you'll be able to watch that press conference. We're aiming for about an hour or so. But again, we do want to give our teams as much time as they need to gather the most accurate and timely information they can for you. And again, we will share that at that upcoming press conference. But for now, again, we want to thank you so much for sticking with us and watching our live coverage of the first launch attempt of Boeing's crew flight test, NASA and Boeing's crew flight test. But until then, and that press conference, we hope to see you on there for more information about when we can next launch. Have a good night.